All right, today we're going to do a little strategic forensics. We're looking at a corporate horror story about a company that had it all and then lost it. Not because of some single huge mistake, but from a slow, painful death by 1,000 cuts. This is the story of how Yahoo didn't just miss the future, they actively said no to it. You know, it's almost impossible to explain to someone today just how huge Yahoo was back in its prime. If the early internet had a capital city, Yahoo wasn't just in it, it was it. For millions of people, Yahoo was the front door, the town square, the whole shebang. And you have to understand that peak to really feel the scale of the fall. So let's start at the very top. In the late 90s, early 2000s, Yahoo wasn't just a big player. They were the entire game. But we're looking at this not as a success story, but as the moment the seeds of complacency were planted.
I mean, look at this. Their ecosystem was just enormous. Your email, the news, your stocks, sports scores, your photos, your chats, it was all under one big purple roof. They built this digital theme park with a really simple goal: get you in the door and make sure you never ever wanted or needed to leave.
And this is a really important distinction. For millions of us, the daily routine was wake up, turn on the computer, and go to Yahoo. People didn't think of it as browsing the web. They just went to Yahoo. And when your whole business is built on a habit that millions of people have, it creates this powerful illusion that you're invincible. And this, right here, this gets to the heart of it. Their unbelievable success made them comfortable, dangerously comfortable. They stopped asking the hard questions like, what if we're wrong? And started asking the easy ones like, how can we squeeze more ad revenue out of this page? That subtle shift was the first tiny crack in what looked like an unbreakable empire. Now let's talk about the fatal flaw, because every bad decision they made from here on out, it all stems from this one core problem: a complete and total crisis of identity. Yahoo simply never decided what it wanted to be when it grew up. Seriously, what was Yahoo? The answer kind of depended on which CEO was in charge that week. They didn't have a strategy. They had a mood. And instead of making sharp, decisive pivots, they just oscillated. They became this giant digital buffet, a little bit of everything, but not really great at any one thing. And this slide really shows the deep, fundamental disconnect. Yahoo was playing an old game, the portal game. The goal was to keep you trapped in their little world for as long as possible to show you more ads. But the internet was changing. It was becoming a tool. The future wasn't about maximizing time. It was about maximizing utility, getting you what you needed fast. Which brings us to what is, honestly, the greatest logical tragedy in Yahoo's entire story: how they accidentally and actively built their own replacement. And it all goes back to that identity crisis. So while Yahoo was busy building this massive, cluttered digital mall, a couple of grad students built, well, this: a blank white page with a box on it. To a company like Yahoo, this looked laughably simple. It was designed to do the exact opposite of what Yahoo wanted. It was meant to get you an answer and send you away as fast as possible. And this is the philosophical divide that changed everything. To Yahoo, search was just plumbing. It was a feature, a tool to help people find stuff inside their portal. But to Google, search wasn't part of the product. It was the product. That singular obsessive focus made all the difference. This observation is just so brutal because it shows a shocking lack of self-awareness. Yahoo had the key to what would become the most valuable real estate on the entire internet, and they thought it was just a minor utility. They saw it as a cost, not a crown jewel. And there it is. The moment you mentally downgrade your most important asset to a feature, you've already lost it. You've outsourced your own future. They couldn't see the forest for the trees, or in their case, they couldn't see the infrastructure for the traffic. Okay, this timeline is just painful to look at. In 2002, Yahoo could have bought Google for $1 billion. They said no. They got another chance a year later, but they hesitated. By the time they finally woke up, it was way too late. And look, this wasn't bad luck. This was a symptom of their strategic paralysis. They couldn't decide what to do, so they did nothing. And believe it or not, it gets even worse. For a while, Yahoo actually paid Google to power its own search results. Just think about that. They were sending their biggest future rival a fire hose of traffic, feeding them invaluable data on what people search for, and giving them the money and time they needed to grow into a monster. They didn't just lose to Google.
They trained them.
So, after the huge blunder with search, what did Yahoo do next? Well, instead of developing a clear, focused strategy, they just went shopping. This next phase is a masterclass in what happens when you use acquisitions as a substitute for having a real plan. Yahoo started collecting hot new startups like they were Souvenirs, Flickr, Tumblr. They spent billions on these incredible, exciting companies. They'd buy them with a huge press conference, integrate them poorly, and then basically forget about them. They never became part of a bigger vision. They were just shiny trophies on a shelf. And this right here, this is the receipt. This is the bill that came due for all that indecision. In 2008, Microsoft offered to buy Yahoo for almost $45 billion. The board turned it down, thinking they were worth more. Just 8 years later, they sold for less than $5 billion. That's not a market fluctuation, that's a reckoning. This quote just nails the final years of Yahoo. Every time a new CEO came in, the entire company would lurch in a new direction. One day they were a media company, the next they were a tech company, then a mobile company. You can't move forward if you're constantly being told to turn around.
All right, let's bring it home and talk about the brutal truth here. Because this isn't just a history lesson. The story of Yahoo is a massive warning sign for any big, successful company that's feeling a little too comfortable right now.
Honestly, this slide explains the entire story. Yahoo was constantly trapped in the present, always asking, what's hot right now? What should we be today? Meanwhile, companies like Google were obsessed with the future, asking a much bigger question. What fundamental human problem can we solve basically forever? One question gets you a portal. The other gets you infrastructure. So what's the final verdict? It's pretty simple. First, clarity is more powerful than keeping your options open. Second, indecision isn't just waiting, it is an active choice, and it has devastating consequences. And finally, in the long run, the company that builds the roads will always, always outlast the company that just builds the billboards on the side of it. And that leaves us with this final kind of tough question. Yahoo died because they were protecting what made them successful in the past, their portal, their ad model, their time on site metrics. And protecting the past is what killed their future. So the challenge for every leader listening is this: what part of your business are you clinging to so tightly that it's stopping you from becoming what you need to be next?